The bullet was meant for him, but she stepped in front. A 23-year-old housemaid from Atlanta threw herself between death and the most dangerous man in Seoul. What happened next would shake the foundations of Korea's most ruthless crime family and prove that sometimes the greatest power comes from the most unexpected places. They said Min Jae-kang was born without a heart. The third son of the Kang crime syndicate had earned his reputation with cold precision. No mercy, no emotion, no weakness. While his older brothers fought for their father's approval with brutality and spectacle, Min Jae operated in the shadows, turning the family's underground casino operations into an empire worth billions of won. He didn't need to raise his voice. One look from those dark eyes could make grown men confess to crimes they didn't commit. Amara Johnson was the opposite of everything Min Jae represented. She'd come to Seoul 3 years ago with nothing but the expired tourist visa and a dream that had long since died. The teaching position she'd been promised never materialized. The modeling agency that recruited her online turned out to be a scam. Now she cleaned the luxury penthouses of Gangnam's elite, sending every spare one back to her grandmother in Atlanta, who was fighting stage 4 cancer. She was invisible to people like Min Jae, just another foreign worker scrubbing their marble floors. Until the night everything changed. Before we continue with this story, I want to know something. Where in the world are you watching this from right now? Are you tuning in from Seoul, Atlanta, Lagos, London? Drop your city in the comments because this story about two worlds colliding is reaching people across every border, and I love seeing where you all are. And if you're new here, welcome to the channel where we dive deep into stories about love, loyalty, and the lines people cross for both. It was supposed to be a routine cleaning job. Amara had been assigned to the penthouse in Cheongdam-dong by her agency 3 months earlier. The instructions were simple. Come Tuesday and Friday evenings after 10 p.m, clean everything, touch nothing personal, and never ever ask questions about the owner. The first time she'd seen Min Jae, he was standing by the floor-to-ceiling windows, smoking a cigarette and watching the city lights below. He hadn't acknowledged her presence, hadn't even turned around. She'd cleaned around him like he was just another piece of expensive furniture. This was fine by Amara. Invisible was safe. Invisible meant she could work, get paid, and avoid the complications that came with being noticed in a city where she had no legal protections. But Min Jae had noticed her. He noticed everything. He noticed how she always arrived exactly 15 minutes early, how she treated his things with careful respect, even though she probably earned in a month what he spent on a single dinner. He noticed the medical textbooks in English she kept in her cleaning supply bag, how she'd study during her brief breaks, mouthing complex terminology in the silent apartment. He noticed the fading bruise on her wrist that she tried to cover with her sleeve, courtesy of a landlord who thought foreign workers had no right to complain about mold or broken locks. Min Jae told himself he didn't care. Caring was a liability in his world, but something about her quiet dignity, the way she moved through his space without wanting anything from him, without fear or artificial friendliness, it intrigued him. The first time he spoke to her directly was on a Friday night in July. "You're studying medicine," he said in English, startling her as she was cleaning his office. His English was perfect, barely accented. Amara straightened, clutching her dust cloth. "I was. Before I came here, I couldn't finish." "Why?" She hesitated. People like him didn't really want answers. They just wanted to hear themselves ask questions. But something in his expression seemed genuinely curious. "My grandmother got sick. The bills. I had to make a choice. I was going to go back and finish once I saved enough, but..." She trailed off, the math of her situation too depressing to speak aloud. At the rate she was going, her grandmother would be gone long before Amara saved enough to return. Min Jae had simply nodded and returned to his paperwork. Amara thought that was the end of it. She didn't know that the next day, Min Jae had one of his people look into her situation. Didn't know that he'd learned about her expired visa, her grandmother's stage 4 diagnosis, the $47,000 in medical debt that was crushing what was left of her family. She definitely didn't know that Min Jae had, for the first time in years, felt something uncomfortably close to sympathy. Over the following weeks, their brief exchanges grew slightly longer. He'd ask about her day. She'd answer honestly, without the desperate cheerfulness other employees used around him. There was something refreshing about her directness. One evening, she found an envelope on the kitchen counter with her name written in neat Hangul. Inside was 3 months' salary in cash. She'd found him in his office immediately. I can't accept this. Why not? Because I didn't earn it. I don't take charity. Min-jae had looked up from his laptop, something almost like amusement in his eyes. It's not charity. Consider it a bonus for honesty. Everyone around me lies constantly. You don't. That has value. I still can't. Your grandmother's treatment costs approximately $47,000 USD. At your current salary, working 3 jobs, you'll have that saved in approximately 8 years. Your grandmother's prognosis gives her perhaps 18 months. His voice was matter of fact, not cruel, just stating mathematics. Take the money. Send it home. Keep cleaning my apartment. We don't need to discuss it again. Amara had stood there, the envelope trembling in her hands, tears streaming down her face. She'd left without taking it, pride warring with desperate need. The envelope was still there the next week. And the week after that. She finally took it on the 4th week, along with a handwritten note she'd left that simply said, "Thank you. I'll find a way to repay you." Min-jae had read the note and done something he rarely did. He'd smiled. What Min-jae didn't tell Amara was that his gift had made her a person of interest. In his world, every action had consequences. His accountants noticed the withdrawal. His older brother, Tae-yang, always looking for weaknesses to exploit, heard whispers about the foreign cleaning woman who'd caught Min-jae's attention. "Getting soft, little brother?" Tae-yang had asked during a family dinner at their father's compound. "Throwing money at strays now?" Min-jae had kept his expression neutral. "It's my money. I'll throw it where I want." Father built this family on strength, not sentiment. You give that girl money today, tomorrow she's asking for a visa. Next month she's selling stories to journalists about the Kang family operations. She won't. You can't possibly know that. I know people. It's why my operations are profitable, and yours require constant bailouts from Father's reserves. The insult had landed perfectly. Tae-yang's jaw had tightened, but he'd said nothing more. Their father, the aging patriarch Dongmin Kang, had watched the exchange with calculating eyes. After dinner, Dongmin had called Min-jae to his private office. "This girl, the American, she means something to you." It wasn't a question. Min-jae chose his words carefully. "She's competent and discreet. Good employees are hard to find. Good employees don't require $30,000 bonuses. I have the money. I chose to spend it." Dongmin had studied his youngest son. Of all his children, Min-jae was the most like him, the most dangerous, the most useful, also the most unpredictable. Your brother is right about one thing. Sentiment is a weakness, but attachment can be weaponized. The old man had poured them both whiskey. Just make sure you're the one holding the weapon, not the one it's pointed at. Min-jae had left his father's house with an uneasy feeling in his chest. In his world, everything you cared about became a target. He'd learned that lesson young when rivals had kidnapped his childhood dog to force his father's hand in a territory dispute. The dog had been returned in pieces. He'd been 11 years old. After that, Min-jae had made it a policy never to care about anything that could bleed. But somehow, Amara Johnson had slipped past his defences. Not because she was beautiful, though she was, with her warm brown skin and natural hair she wore in intricate braids that reminded him of art. Not because she wanted something from him, because she clearly didn't, had even tried to refuse his help. It was her dignity that got to him, the way she existed in her difficult circumstances without complaint or self-pity, the way she worked 3 jobs without losing the kindness in her eyes, the way she studied medical textbooks she might never get to use because giving up on the dream felt like a bigger failure than acknowledging its improbability. She reminded him of who he might have been if he'd been born into a different family. Someone who saved lives instead of taking them. Their conversations grew longer. He'd find excuses to be home when she was cleaning. Would order dinner for 2 and insist she take a break to eat. She'd tell him about growing up in Atlanta, about her grandmother who'd raised her after her parents died, about the American South's complicated relationship with race and class. He'd tell her carefully edited versions of his life, about growing up in a gilded cage, about the weight of family expectations, about the loneliness of being surrounded by people who feared or wanted something from you, but never just saw you. You chose this life, though. Amara had said one evening, sitting across from him at his dining table, picking at japchae he'd ordered from the restaurant downstairs. Did I? Minjai had countered. I was born into it. You're not your family. You could walk away. He'd laughed, a bitter sound. People don't walk away from my family. They get carried away. She'd fallen quiet then, the implications settling between them. She wasn't naive. She knew the expensive apartment, the designer clothes, the way people looked at him with fear. It all pointed to something outside the law. What exactly do you do, Minjai? Nothing you need to worry about. That's not an answer. It's the only answer I can give you, for your own safety. She'd looked at him for a long moment. I should probably stop coming here. Probably. But I won't. Why not? She'd smiled, sad and knowing. Because you're the first person in 3 years who's treated me like a person instead of a problem or invisible. And I think I might be the first person in your life who sees you, instead of what you can do for them or what you can do to them. She was right, and that terrified him. It happened on a Wednesday night in September. Amara wasn't supposed to be there. Wednesday wasn't her usual cleaning day. But she'd texted Minjai asking if she could come by early to swap shifts with another worker who'd had a family emergency. He'd texted back a simple, yes, come whenever. She'd arrived at 8 p.m. instead of her usual 10 p.m. Used her key code to enter. The apartment was dark, except for the city lights streaming through the windows. She'd assumed Minjai was out. She was in the kitchen, gathering her cleaning supplies, when she heard voices in the living room. Tense voices. One was Minjai, the others she didn't recognize. You're making a mistake, Kang. Our family deserves respect. Your father agreed to the partnership. My father agreed to evaluate a proposal. Evaluation complete. Answer is no. You arrogant, I think we're done here. Mr. Park will see you out. Amara knew she should stay hidden in the kitchen. This was clearly business. The kind of business she didn't want to know about. But something in the air felt wrong. Dangerous. She peeked around the corner just as everything exploded into motion. One of the men, young with wild eyes, had pulled a gun. Minjai's bodyguard, Mr. Park, was reaching for his own weapon, but he'd been standing too far away, caught off guard by the sudden escalation. The young man was shouting something in rapid Korean, his hands shaking. Minjai stood absolutely still, his face showing nothing. Time seemed to slow down. Amara saw the man's finger tighten on the trigger, saw the angle of the gun pointed directly at Minjai's chest, saw Mr. Park still too far away to intercept. She didn't think. Thinking was a luxury she couldn't afford in that split second. She ran. 3 steps was all it took to put herself between the gun and Minjai. She spread her arms wide, making herself the biggest target possible, and screamed, "No!" The sound of the gunshot was louder than anything she'd ever heard. Then came the impact, like being hit by a truck spinning her backwards. She felt Minjai catch her before she hit the ground. The next few moments were chaos, more gunshots. Shouting. The sound of bodies hitting the floor. Through the haze of pain, Amara was aware of Minjai's face above hers, his perfect composure finally shattered, his hands pressing hard against her shoulder where blood was blooming across her shirt. Amara! Amara, stay with me. Look at me. His voice sounded strange, desperate. She'd never heard him sound like that. I'm okay, she managed, even though she definitely was not okay. Are you okay? He laughed, a broken sound. Am I okay? Why would you... Couldn't let them shoot you. Her voice was getting weaker. You're my only friend here. You're not dying for me. Do you understand? You're not dying. Mr. Park was suddenly there, phone pressed to his ear, barking orders in Korean. Behind him, Amara could see 3 bodies on the floor. All the men who'd come to threaten Minjai. Sir, the doctor is 5 minutes away. We can't take her to a hospital. There will be questions. I don't care about questions. She needs... The doctor is better. Discreet. He can handle this. But sir, we need to move. If they sent these men, they'll send more when they don't report back. Minjai looked torn between staying with her and taking control of the situation. Amara made the decision for him. Go. Do what you need to do. I'm not going anywhere. She tried to smile. too tired to move anyway. He'd pressed his forehead briefly to hers, a gesture so intimate and vulnerable it made her heart ache even through the pain. Then he was up, his mask sliding back into place, issuing orders in rapid Korean. The last thing she remembered before losing consciousness was thinking that she was probably going to die in a penthouse apartment in Seoul, and somehow, saving Min-jae made it feel worth it. When Amara woke up, she was in a bedroom she didn't recognize, not a hospital. Expensive sheets, medical equipment beeping softly beside the bed, an IV in her arm, and Min-jae sitting in a chair beside her, his clothes still bloody, his face exhausted. "You're awake." His voice was rough. "How long?" 14 hours. The bullet went through your shoulder, missed the major arteries by centimeters. Dr. Lim says you'll make a full recovery, though the scar will be significant. She processed this. Alive. That was more than she'd expected. The men who... dead. All three. Mr. Park is efficient. Are you in trouble? No more than usual. The Park family was overreaching. They'll think twice before trying again. He leaned forward, his eyes intense. Why did you do it? You could have stayed hidden in the kitchen. They never knew you were there. Amara thought about this. The real answer was complicated. She barely knew this man beyond their brief conversations, beyond the fact that he'd helped her grandmother, beyond the strange connection she felt when they talked. But she'd thrown herself in front of a bullet for him without hesitation. I told you, you're my friend. People don't take bullets for friends. I do, apparently. That's insane. Probably. She tried to shift and gasped at the pain. Min-jae was immediately on his feet, adjusting her pillows, checking her IV. You're being very nice, it's unsettling. You saved my life. So we're even, for the money you gave me? We're not even. We'll never be even. He sat back down, running his hands through his hair in frustration. You shouldn't have been there. It's my fault. I should have told you not to come. Then you'd be dead. Then you wouldn't be hurt. I'd rather be hurt than have you be dead. He looked at her for a long moment. Why? She wanted to say something flip, something to lighten the heavy intensity of the moment, but she was too tired for anything but honesty. Because the world has enough violence and death. And you, underneath everything, you're not as cold as you pretend to be. You gave me money when you didn't have to. You talk to me like I matter. She trailed off, embarrassed. This is probably the pain medication talking. It's not. He took her hand carefully, mindful of the IV. I don't know what this is, between us. But after tonight, I know I can't let you go back to cleaning apartments and working 3 jobs and being invisible. If you're feeling this story right now, if you're invested in what happens between Amara and Min-jae, do me a favour and hit that subscribe button, because what happens next is going to challenge everything they think they know about loyalty, family, and where you really belong. Drop a comment telling me what you think Min-jae should do next. Can someone from his world ever really be with someone from hers? Let me know your thoughts. Min-jae's declaration changed everything and nothing. Amara recovered in his penthouse, attended by Dr. Lim, who asked no questions and provided excellent care. Min-jae moved her into the guest bedroom, hired round-the-clock nurses, and made sure she had everything she needed. He also made it clear she would not be returning to her previous life. I've paid off your visa issues. You're legal now. I've also paid off your grandmother's medical debts in full and arranged for her to have the best oncologists in Atlanta. Amara had stared at him from her bed, overwhelmed. Min-jae, I can't let you... You took a bullet for me. I can ensure you and your grandmother are taken care of. These aren't comparable sacrifices, but they're what I can offer. Why are you doing this? He'd sat on the edge of her bed, more vulnerable than she'd ever seen him. Because when I thought you might die, when I was holding you and watching your blood soak through my fingers, I realised something. I've spent my entire life trying not to care about anyone. Caring is weakness in my world. But you made me care anyway, and I'm not sorry about it. Your family won't accept this. Accept me. My family doesn't get a vote. But his family very much thought they did. Tae-yang came to visit 3 days after the shooting, brushing past the guards Min-jae had stationed at his apartment. The foreign girl, the one who took the bullet. Tae-yang stood in the living room, his expensive suit immaculate, his expression contemptuous. Father wants to meet her. No. That wasn't a request, little brother. Father has questions about the Park family incident. She was a witness. She was unconscious 30 seconds after the shooting. She saw nothing. Still, family business requires family discretion. Taeyang's smile was sharp. We need to make sure she understands the importance of silence. Sometimes foreigners don't understand our ways. They need education. The threat was clear. Min Jae's voice dropped to a dangerous level. If anyone touches her, if anyone even makes her uncomfortable, I will burn our family's operations to the ground. Do you understand me? Bold words for a third son. Try me. Taeyang had left, but the message was clear. Amara was now a complication in family politics. The fact that she was foreign, black, poor, and had somehow earned Min Jae's protection made her an anomaly in their world. Anomalies got eliminated. When Min Jae explained this to Amara, she'd been quiet for a long time. I should leave Korea. Go back to Atlanta. Your family? No. Min Jae, be reasonable. I'm putting you in danger just by being here. You're the only real thing in my life. I'm not letting them take that away. What are you saying? He'd taken both her hands in his, careful of her healing shoulder. I'm saying that I love you. I don't know when it happened. Maybe when you tried to refuse my money. Maybe when you studied medical textbooks in between cleaning my floors. Maybe when you threw yourself in front of a bullet without hesitation. But I love you and I'm done pretending I don't. Amara felt tears streaming down her face. This is crazy. We're from completely different worlds. Your family will never accept me. The Korean community will judge you. My family... She laughed through her tears. My grandmother is going to lose her mind when I tell her I fell in love with a Korean gangster. Does she know you're in love with me? I didn't say... She stopped, meeting his eyes. Yes, I love you too, even though it's insane and complicated and probably impossible. I've built an empire on making impossible things happen. He'd kissed her then, soft and careful, mindful of her injuries. Let me make this possible. The next 3 months were the happiest of Amara's life and the most dangerous. Min Jae was true to his word. He protected her, supported her, and made it clear to his organization that she was under his personal protection. But the tension with his family grew. His father demanded meetings that Min Jae refused to attend if Amara couldn't come. His brother Taeyang made increasingly aggressive moves to undermine Min Jae's operations. The other crime families watched with interest, scenting weakness. Amara returned to her studies, enrolling in medical courses at a university with Min Jae's financial support. She moved through her days hyper-aware of the bodyguards that now followed her everywhere, of the weight of being loved by someone so dangerous. The breaking point came at the annual Kang family gathering. Min Jae had insisted on bringing Amara, making a public statement about her importance to him. His father, Dong-min, had greeted her with cold politeness. His mother hadn't greeted her at all, turning away as if Amara didn't exist. The extended family members had stared with open curiosity and thinly veiled disdain. Taeyang had been the only one to engage directly, cornering Amara in a hallway while Min Jae was in a meeting with the family accountants. You really love him? My cold, calculating little brother? Yes. Love won't protect you in our world. You know that, right? You're a liability. The other families already see you as his weakness. How long before someone kidnaps you to get to him? How long before loving you gets him killed? That's not... It is. You took a bullet for him once. Noble. Stupid, but noble. But you're making him vulnerable every day you stay. Every moment he spends worrying about you is a moment he's not focused on survival. Taeyang leaned closer. If you really love him, you'll leave. Let him focus on what matters. Family, business, staying alive. The words haunted Amara for days. When she finally told Min Jae about the conversation, his response was immediate. We're leaving Korea. What? I've been making arrangements, transferring assets, setting up operations that can run without me. We can go anywhere. New York, London, back to Atlanta if you want. Somewhere my family can't dictate our lives. Min Jae, you can't abandon your family's business because of me. Watch me. He pulled her close. I've spent 29 years serving a family that sees me as a tool, not a son. Building an empire I don't believe in. Hurting people for profit. You're the first person who's ever made me want to be better. The first person who's seen me as just Min-jae, not the Kang family attack dog. I'm not giving that up. But you'd resent me eventually, for making you choose. I'd resent myself more for letting you go. Amara realised in that moment that she had a choice to make. Stay and accept the danger, the isolation, the weight of being with someone from a world so different from her own. Or leave, protect them both, return to her own life. Neither option felt right, but then she thought about the moment she'd stepped in front of that bullet. She hadn't thought about consequences then. She'd just known that losing Min-jae was unacceptable. She felt the same way now. Okay, let's go. Let's start over somewhere new. They planned to leave in 2 weeks. Min-jae made arrangements quietly, liquidating assets, transferring money to overseas accounts, preparing to walk away from everything he'd built. But his family found out. The call came at 3 a.m. Dongmin's voice on the line, cold and final. Come to the compound. Alone. Now. I'm not leaving Amara unprotected. Bring her then. This involves her too. They'd arrived at dawn, the Kang family compound looking like a fortress in the grey morning light. The entire family was assembled in the main hall. Min-jae's parents, his brothers, aunts, uncles, cousins, all the people who controlled Korea's underground economy. Dongmin stood at the head of the room, his presence commanding despite his age. You plan to leave us, to abandon your family for this girl. Min-jae's voice was steady. I plan to leave the business. I'll always be your son. In our world, those things are the same. If you walk away from everything, including your share of the family assets, your protection, your name. I understand. Dongmin turned to Amara. And you? You think taking one bullet makes you worthy of my son? You think your sacrifice somehow earns you a place in our world? Amara felt every eye in the room on her. She could feel Min-jae tense beside her, ready to defend her. But this was her moment to speak. No, sir. I don't think I'm worthy of your world. I don't want to be part of your world. I just want to be with Min-jae, the man he is when he's not being what you all need him to be. And you think he can just stop being who he is? Stop being a Kang? I think he can choose who he wants to become. Silence fell across the room. Then Tae-yang laughed, a harsh sound. This is pathetic. Father, let them go, they're weak. Sentiment will kill them within a year. But it was Min-jae's mother who spoke next, her voice quiet but clear. I think they should go. Everyone turned to stare at her. She'd barely spoken during any family gathering. She continued, looking at her husband. You built this family on blood and fear, made our sons into weapons, but look at Min-jae. For the first time he looks alive, because of her. She gestured to Amara. Maybe it's weak, maybe it will destroy him, but maybe there's more to life than what we've built here. Dongmin studied his wife with an expression Amara couldn't read. Finally, he spoke. Leave then. Take your share of the business assets. I'll transfer everything to neutral accounts. You'll have no obligations to the family and no protection, but also no interference. He looked at Min-jae with something that might have been sadness. I hope you find what you're looking for. Thank you, Father. Don't thank me. I just don't want to bury another son. That was 6 months ago. Today, Amara and Min-jae live in a brownstone in Brooklyn. She's back in medical school, about to start her clinical rotations. He started a legitimate investment consulting firm, using his strategic mind for legal purposes for the first time in his life. They're building something new. Something clean. Something theirs. Her grandmother flew out last month, healthy and in remission, and spent 2 weeks making Korean-American fusion dishes in their kitchen and telling Min-jae embarrassing stories about Amara's childhood. It's not perfect. Min-jae still has nightmares about his old life. Amara still can't quite believe she's safe. They're learning each other's languages, each other's cultures, figuring out how to blend 2 completely different worlds into something that works for them. But every morning Min-jae wakes up and chooses her, and she chooses him right back. That's enough. If this story moved you, if you're rooting for Amara and Min-jae, I want to know. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel for more stories about love that crosses every boundary, and drop a comment telling me what you think happens next for them. Do they finally find peace? Does Min-jae's past catch up to them? Let me know what you want to see next. Remember, the greatest love stories aren't about perfection. They're about two people choosing each other despite every reason not to. About looking at someone from a completely different world and saying, yes, you're worth it. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is step in front of a bullet for someone. And sometimes the most powerful thing they can do is prove every day that your sacrifice mattered. This is the story of a maid and a mafia boss, a bullet and a choice, two worlds colliding and creating something entirely new. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next story.